The Atlanta Braves have another frustrating loss thanks to the lack of offense, and they are now 9.5 games back of the Phillies in the NL East. Do they have any shot at the division this year? We'll answer that on today's episode of Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at shorts.ball. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves on X and Locked On Braves on Instagram. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do me a huge favor real quick. Just hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, and leave me a comment down below. And if you listen on the audio version, you can help out by leaving me a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. And thanks as always for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. A lot of great Braves podcasts out there to listen to. I appreciate it whenever you take the opportunity and the chance to listen to ours here at Locked On Braves. On today's episode, we'll talk about the 2-0 loss to the Phillies on Tuesday night. Another frustrating performance by the offense. Their big hitters in the lineup not coming through. We'll also dive into Spencer Strider's start, and are the Braves already done in the NL East? Do they have any chance of coming back and winning the division at this point? We'll talk about that and set you up for the rest of the series if the Braves get to play it. Some rain coming to Philly on Wednesday. So the Braves open up the series with the Phillies on Tuesday. They dropped the game 2-0, just another close loss. At least it wasn't a one-run loss this time. They gave the Phillies another run there in the 8th inning so that it wasn't their league-leading 23rd one-run game. So there's that, but they still lose. Another close one, another game that it feels like you could have won, should have won. They've had too many of those here lately. They haven't done good enough in these close games, and this one coming against a division rival. We'll talk about Strider's start in a minute, but I think we have to unfortunately start with the offense or the lack of offense. No runs, 5 hits, 4 walks, 11 strikeouts. They had a runner on base in every inning except for the 9th, and you can't score a single run. That is the baffling part to me about this offense and about this team, is that you have runners on base, you have fast runners on base, and you're not able to do anything with them. And again, with all those base runners, they had just 2 at-bats with runners in scoring position, and those both came in the 5th inning, which was really their best scoring chance of the game. But even more so than that, it's really hard to have a base runner on in 8 straight innings and only get 2 at-bats with a runner in scoring position. And this has been my frustration with this Braves team, this Braves offense, and this Braves offensive philosophy for years now. And this goes back even into, the heyday, the 23s and before, where they were hitting all these home runs. And maybe this is just the old school mentality that I have. But I feel like you have to do more to try to manufacture runs. And if you're an everydayer, I know you're probably tired of hearing me say that. But you can't just sit around and wait on the 2-3 run home run, especially when you're facing good pitching like you're going to when you face the Phillies. The Ranger Suarez has had the Braves number for whatever reason. And he's a good pitcher, not for whatever reason. He is a good pitcher, but Braves haven't been able to do much of anything off of him. You got to find ways to manufacture runs and use the speed that you have. I understand you are afraid of giving up outs on the base pass, trying to steal. And I get that. And that is frustrating, but you have to press the issue and pick your spots. You have to be better at doing these things. And I think that's just the real crux of the issue here, is that the Braves just aren't good at doing these little things, whether they don't focus it or teach it enough. They're just not good at doing these little things. They try every now and then, and they're just not good at it. And that's a big problem. And that is a coaching problem. You have to be able to manufacture runs in different ways. You can't have 8 straight innings where you have a base runner and you get 2 at-bats with a runner in scoring position, which we'll get into runners in scoring position later. Maybe that's not the best spot you want to be in for this Braves offense. But you look at Ozzie was on base 3 times tonight. He's continuing to do a good job getting on base. He draws a leadoff walk in the 2nd inning. He goes absolutely nowhere. Ozzie reaches with 1 out in the 4th inning. He goes nowhere. Michael Harris leads off the 5th inning with a single. Allen bunts him over. That's great. That I'm on board with. That is the right move that you should do. Michael Harris in the 8th spot, he gets on. I wouldn't mind seeing him try to take off first and steal before the bunt, but bunting him over with Nick Allen, trying a hit and run with Nick Allen, doing something there. So they at least did something to move Michael Harris into scoring position for the top of the order. Love that. Perfectly fine with that. Then Acuna walks. And then this was the at-bat to me. You get 1st and 2nd, 1 out for Austin Riley against a left-handed pitcher. He's got to come through here. You get a middle away sinker, belt-high sinker away, and he pulls it on the ground for a force out. That to me was the at-bat. We're all going to focus on Olson striking out to end the inning, and that's not good either. But that to me was the at-bat. You had 1st and 2nd, 1 out, Austin Riley up against the lefty, and he's not able to come through. Then they pitch around Ozuna, which why wouldn't you with the lefty on deck and Matt Olson? They walk Ozuna, load the bases for Matt Olson, and a pretty awful at-bat by him too on the lefty-lefty matchup. But you had 2 chances there with 2 of your best hitters in Riley and Olson, and you can't come through. We're going to talk more about that here in a second. And then you had Ozzie on again to lead off an inning in the 6th, and he goes nowhere. It's twice now that Ozzie has gotten on to lead an inning, and he goes nowhere. That is just extremely frustrating. When it's a 1-run game, you're trying to force, or you need to try to force the issue to get a run across. You can't keep waiting on that 2-3 run home run to happen, and you do absolutely nothing. Acuna, he gets on with 1 out in the 7th, and then Riley pops up on the first pitch. Just another terrible at bat. It's a sinker that's running in on his hands. Just a really bad pitch decision to swing at there, and it's an easy pop up. And then Ozuna strikes out. And I get they're not releasing Acuna right now to run a lot, and I understand that, but still just frustrating to see Acuna get on with 1 out for Riley and Ozuna, and you get nothing. You pinch run for Murphy with 2 outs in the 8th, and Luke Williams goes nowhere. It's really hard to just watch this offense right now because I feel like while Eli White was in there and you've had Nick Allen at the bottom of the lineup, you've been able to do some more of these things, but they just, for whatever reason in this game, and it feels like the last week or so, they haven't really been trying to press the issue anymore offensively, and they're just sitting around waiting on that big home run to come, waiting on that big extra base hit to come, and it's not coming. And because of that, and you're not trying any other ways to score, you're putting up a goose egg, and it's just extremely frustrating. Again, we went through this all of 2024. It's the same thing, and you had the excuse of injuries then. There's no more excuses for this team. There's no more excuses for this offense. You have everybody that you want healthy and in the lineup, and you're still just not producing right now. Again, I have to always put that caveat in there. And one of the biggest reasons for the offensive struggles this year has been the top hitters not coming through in the clutch. And this from Sean Coleman at Stats SAC on X, and I think also part of the Hammer Territory podcast that they do. Among MLB heart of the order, so 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th batting positions combined in runners in scoring position situations, the Braves rank 28th in WRC plus. They rank 28th in OPS, 29th in slugging, 29th in ISO, isolated power, and 27th with a 25.3% strikeout rate. So again, among the Braves' heart of the order, there's 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th batters in the order with runners in scoring position. The Braves are 2nd, 3rd to last in all of baseball. And a big part of that is Matt Olson. As much as I defend Matt Olson, and I think he's a really good player, he's been 2nd best first baseman in baseball since the Braves have gotten him behind Freddie Freeman, but he is still a really good hitter and a good first baseman. But he has an OPS of 571 with runners in scoring position this year. And that's despite a 311 on-base percentage. He's still getting his walks with runners in scoring position, but he's not hitting with runners in scoring position. You want Matt Olson hitting with runners in scoring position. Michael Harris has the most RBI this year with runners in scoring position with 28. 28 of his 31 RBIs have come with hits with runners in scoring position. The next closest is Riley with 19. It doesn't feel like it watching the games, but Riley has actually been the best with runners in scoring position, hitting 309 this year, but he has just 1 walk and 15 strikeouts in those situations. So a 26% strikeout rate with runners in scoring position. Ozuna has a 31% strikeout rate with runners in scoring position. That is way too high for one of your best hitters in big clutch situations. He's striking out over 30% of the time. We'll dive more into this in a future episode and the biggest thing that is troubling this Atlanta Braves offense. But spoiler alert, it's your best hitters. It's Riley, it's Olson, Ozuna not coming through in clutch situations often enough. Can that turn around? Yes, and it has to. For this team to reach its potential, they have to start getting more production from those 3 players. Riley, Olson, Ozuna. Those are the guys that you should want up in those big spots, but they have to start coming through in those clutch situations. And they just have not done that enough this year. And until that changes, this offense is going to be running in the mud like they have been for a while now. So that's really the key for me. Everything else is there. That's the only thing, in my opinion, that is holding this Braves team back is those 3 guys and the team as a whole doing a better job manufacturing runs and hitting with runners in scoring position. The defense is great. Nick Allen, a tremendous double play turned on Tuesday night. Austin Riley had a great play throwing a ball from foul territory. Matt Olson helped Austin Riley out with a bad throw. He's been fantastic over there at first base. He's going to win another Gold Glove. You might have 4 Gold Glovers on this team. Starting rotation has been great. Chris Sale's back to Chris Sale. Schwellenbach looks like he's back to himself. Strider took a step forward, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Grant Holmes has been fantastic. AJ Smith-Shawver, outside of his last start, has been really good. Bryce Elder has been good in the rotation. The rotation's been good. The bullpen's been fine. Certainly there are some hiccups there. But the biggest thing holding this team back is just the lack of offense and the lack of production in big spots from your best hitters. And until that changes, this team's not going anywhere. And I really think that is the biggest key to this team turning things around. All right, next we will get into Spencer Strider's start, which I thought was a step in the right direction. And we'll talk about this NL East race. Is it done? Do the Braves have any chance of coming back? Have we seen any teams make big comebacks like this after the month of May? And if you're a Braves fan, you already know that there is one out there. We'll talk about that here next. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? I do it all the time. Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. It's also those little payments that you forget about that get you to. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's 50%. That's monarchmoney.com. Again, use code LOCKEDONMLB and you're going to get half off your first year. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. We'll have 2 more podcasts coming your way this week. We'll be looking at some more trade scenarios for the Atlanta Braves. Are they buyers? Are they sellers? We'll look at that and also have our mailbag episode on Friday as well. So a couple more podcasts coming your way this week. And obviously me and Lindsay will have the postcast for you after every game that the Braves play the rest of this week as well. The Phillies, the Red Sox over the weekend, assuming we get the rest of these Phillies games in. Now, with that 2-0 loss on Tuesday night, the Atlanta Braves dropped 9.5 games back to the Phillies. But in that loss, Spencer Strider, 4 2/3 innings, allows just 1 hit. Unfortunately, it was a run-scoring double from Max Kepler. 4 walks, 2 of those coming the last 2 batters that he faced, so maybe he was running out of gas. I mentioned just the 1 earned run allowed and 7 strikeouts, 90 pitches, 50 of them for strikes. Not the best ratio that, he probably would want, but 49 fastballs in this one, averaging 95.1 miles per hour. Now, that is obviously a couple miles per hour down from his average before the injury, and going back to 2023. I just think that's likely where he is at this point. And that's not to say that he can't ever get back to being the guy that averages 97 and hits 98, 99 when he needs to. I just think for right now in his recovery and coming back, I think this is the Spencer Strider that we should expect. And as I've said several times, I think that can still be a really good pitcher. And he was a good pitcher on this night. And if he's a little bit more stretched out, then maybe you give him a chance to get through that fifth inning. Or maybe if he just wasn't as rusty, he gets through that and doesn't walk those last couple of batters. Like I said, I think he just kind of ran out of steam. Bryson Stott, my least favorite player in all the world. He is just so annoying. But if he played for the Braves, I would absolutely love the at-bats that he puts up. But he saw 18 pitches against Spencer Strider. It feels like he's not even trying to get hits when he faces Spencer Strider. He's just trying his hardest to make Spencer Strider throw as many pitches as humanly possible. And it worked. And he's really good at it. But that, kind of wore Spencer Strider down a little bit. And he wasn't able to get through that fifth inning. But he was really cruising, I thought, and to that point, and was looking really good. 4 whiffs and 9 called strikes on that four-seam fastball. There's a 27% CSW percentage, a little lower than you would like to see. 34 sliders in this one, 6 whiffs on 11 swings. That's a great whiff rate for that slider, over 50%, 3 called strikes with that slider. Overall, he had a 27% CSW percentage. That's called strike plus whiff rate. I like to see it, 30 or above. So again, just under that, but overall, really good performance. 6 changeups, 2 curveballs. I think with the decreased velocity, I think he's going to have to throw these secondaries a little bit more, these off-speed pitches a little bit more, the changeup and the curveball, get that usage up to maybe 15, 20% on those 2 pitches. I think that's where Spencer Strider is ultimately going to have to go. Now he has to be able to trust those pitches and believe that he can throw them for them to be effective. But with the decrease in velocity, to get hitters off of that a little bit more, the slider's still a really good pitch. We saw that on Tuesday, but I do think he's going to have to mix in the changeup and the curveballs a little bit more. Only 2 balls put in play that had an expected batting average over 280. So a lot of weak contact for the balls that were put in play. Ultimately, this felt like a step in the right direction for Spencer Strider. I thought it was a really good outing by him. Like I said, just kind of ran out of gas, mainly because of Bryson Stott working him to death. But overall, a good step for Spencer Strider. And again, he can be a good pitcher with this diminished stuff, with this diminished velocity. And I look forward to seeing him, next time out, continuing to grow off of this and continue to get stretched out. I mean, he's made 3 starts now in the past year. And obviously there's some rust there, and he's got to build back up to that stamina so that he can go deeper into ball games. And I think we'll see that his next time out. But I was very encouraged from this outing by Spencer Strider. As for the bullpen, good work from Enyo De Los Santos and Dylan Lee. Dylan Lee especially. I know he's given up some home runs here lately, but he is still really, really good. 5 whiffs on 8 swings for Dylan Lee. That slider was really working for him. Montero came in, got a 1 pitch, 1 out. And that's the kind of what you like to see from Montero if you're going to use him there. And then Daysbell came on in a 1-run game in the 8th inning. And this is the problem. We get on to Snit a lot for not going to his best guys. Well, here he is in with a deficit, a 1-run deficit, and he goes to one of his best relievers, but now he's burned for the next day. Again, assuming the Braves play on Wednesday, because he had to throw over 30 pitches to get through the inning, and he ultimately gives up another run and makes it a 2-0 game, which at that point with the Braves offense felt like the biggest lead you could ever have. And it's why I just also can't trust him when we talk about the closer role and who needs to replace Iglesias. And I can't just completely get on board with Daysbell. Now, I do think he is the next man up. And if there is a safe situation and Iggy is unavailable, I think you go to Daysbell. But the command is still a big issue for him. And he hasn't been getting enough strikeouts. So that's why I can't completely get on board with Daysbell just taking over Iglesias in the closer's role. And it's why also the Braves have to go out and find some help in the bullpen for these setup guys. I mean, Dylan Lee, Daysbell, Pierce Johnson, they're all good in their roles, 6th, 7th, 8th inning guys, but it's a different animal in that 9th inning. And Rysell has the mental capacity and ability to get it done. You just have to get him right, whether that is just scrapping the slider for now. We'll see whenever he gets his next opportunity. But Daysbell's command just still gives me pause from putting him in the closer's role. Now, in this outing, got the first 2 outs, was looking good. He's pumping 99 and 100. The at-bat that really frustrated me was the Alec Bohm at bat. And part of this is on Drake Baldwin. You had an 0-2 count against Alec Bohm. You throw a slider well off the plate. It's a non-competitive pitch. Alec Bohm wasn't even thinking of swinging at it. So you go back to the fastball, and Alec Bohm shows that he is sitting on that fastball. It was a foul ball, but it was a loud foul ball. He got it on the barrel, but it went foul down the right field line. I see that, and I say, okay, he is definitely gearing up for the fastball. I cannot give him another one of those. I got to have Daysbell throw his best strikeout pitch. I know he's throwing 99 and 100 with that fastball, but his best strikeout pitch has always been that slider. Alec Bohm showed me he is sitting on the fastball. I cannot throw him another fastball. I throw a slider anywhere near the zone, and it's a strikeout. But they go back to the fastball. Granted, it was neck high, but Alec Bohm's just sitting. He's cheating fastball, and you could see it in the previous swing. He is cheating fastball, and so it didn't matter where he was going to get the bat to it and be on time, and he was, and shot a ball up the middle for a hit. And then you spam some sliders to Castellanos, which is what you're supposed to do, and he sits back on one and just puts a little weak single into center field. Okay, that's fine. That's better than giving him a fastball and it being a 2-run home run. And then at that point, you just can't walk the 8 and 9 hitters. That's all on Daysbell there. You just cannot walk the 8 and 9 hitters in those spots. But that Bowman bat, to me, was just one where it was just bad pitch decision by Drake Baldwin. I think if you go to the slider there, like I said, throw it anywhere near the plate, it's a strikeout. It was pretty clear that Bohm was just going to sell out for the fastball no matter what. So ultimately not worried about Daysbell, but the walks of command are something that, do give me pause with him and fully trusting him in big spots like that. And he ultimately does get out of it just giving up the 1 run. I mean, it's a 2-run deficit. It's not something that the offense shouldn't be able to overcome, but just wanted to point out those couple things in Daysbell's outing. Next, we'll get into the conversation about the NL East. Are the Atlanta Braves done? Do they have any shot at coming back? What do they have to do the rest of the month of May to get themselves in a best position to come back and win the division? We'll discuss all of that here next. So with the loss on Tuesday, the Atlanta Braves find themselves 9.5 games back of the Philadelphia Phillies in the NL East, not to mention the Mets are way ahead of them too. Best case scenario, they're 7.5 games back, assuming they get to play these next 2 games against the Phillies and assuming that they win those games. And best case scenario for the month of May is that the Braves could finish 5.5 games back of the Phillies in the division. And again, that's assuming the Mets lose and the Phillies obviously lose too. That's best case scenario. So what have we seen with the new playoff format for teams at the end of May being able to come back and win the division? Last year the Braves were 6.5 games back of the Phillies on May 31st, and they finished 6 games back. So they didn't make up any ground from May on. The only division last year that saw a team that was leading the division at the end of May not win the division was the Mariners blowing a 6.5 game lead over the Astros in the AL West. That's the only division last year where a team was leading the division on May 31st and didn't hold on to it the rest of the way. So again, it's not all that common, or it's not very common for a team that's leading the division on May 31st or at the end of May to, not win the division. In 2023, the Orioles were 4 games back in the AL East on May 31st, and they ultimately won the division. The Astros were 3 games back of the Rangers and won the division that year. I believe it was a tie, and they had the head-to-head tiebreaker in that one. Those were the only 2 divisions that saw a lead change after May 31st last year. And that's not to say that there weren't some lead changes throughout that process. It's just who was leading the division at the end of May, and did they ultimately win the division? So just once last year did it happen, just twice in 2023. Now, in 2022, the Braves were 10.5 games back of the Mets on May 31st and came back to win the division. I was looking this up. I honestly forgot how crazy of a comeback that was and how unlikely that was. And again, as we talked about a lot in 2022, it wasn't necessarily that the Mets. A lot of people say that, and I've heard people talk about that in the comments section. It wasn't that the Mets. The Braves just played like they're capable of playing. And again, that's 2022, not 2023, where they had the amazing offense. That's 2022. They just played amazing baseball from June on. And that seems to be the case for a lot of these Braves teams. It takes them a while to get going, but generally, June on, we see this team take a step forward and get going. And that was certainly the case in 2022. 10 and a half games back at the end of May, and the Braves came back and won that division with 101 wins. Also in 2022, the Cards were back 3 games of the Brewers, and they won it, finishing 7 games ahead of the Brewers. So a 10-game swing there after the month of May. The Guardians were 6.5 games back of the Twins and won the AL Central by 11 games. And that's also a pretty incredible run there that the Guardians had. So 3 times it happened in 2022. That's 6 times over the past 3 years in this new playoff format that at least a team that was 3 games back at the end of May were able to come back and win the division. Again, we're talking about a Braves team that's going to be best case scenario 5.5 games back, but likely more than that. 3 times a team has come back from 6 games out at the end of May to win the division over that stretch. And the Braves are the only team that have come back from more than that. So if you're looking for the Braves to still be in the NL East race, and this is baseball, anything can happen. 2022 happened. And while it's an outlier, you can't say that it's impossible. But if the Rays want to give themselves the best chance of winning this division, they got to find a way to get within 6 games over these next 4 games at the end of May. They got to get really hot and go on an incredible run. But just looking at the past and looking at the data, it is very difficult to see the Braves coming back and winning this division with where they are now. And as I talked about on the postcast with Lindsay after Tuesday's game, I know it's the cliche for teams and managers to say we're just going to focus on one game at a time, but that really is what it needs to be for Braves, and I think Braves fans too. I would not even look at the division standings till we get to August. I would focus on your team. I wouldn't care about what the Phillies are doing, care about what the Mets are doing. If the Braves do not start playing better baseball, it's not going to matter. And I really think, obviously if they do that with the 3 wild card spots, I think they'll find a way to get in. But the Braves just have to focus on the Braves. Don't worry about the division. Don't worry about the Phillies. The Mets are doing. Braves have to focus on the Braves and playing good, consistent baseball, playing the baseball that they're capable of playing. They do that, and they will be absolutely fine. And they'll be, I think, one of the most dangerous teams down the stretch. But as we do take a step back right now and look at the division standings leading towards the end of May, it looks very unlikely that the Braves are going to be able to dig themselves out of this hole. They're going to have a 2022 type of run to be able to come back and win the NL East. They've just put themselves in too much of a hole at this point to come out of that. Now, if the game gets played on Wednesday, it'll be A.J. Smith-Shawver versus Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler hasn't given up a run in his past 3 starts, and he's allowed just 3 hits in each of those starts. He hasn't given up more than 2 runs in any of his last 7 starts. Zach Wheeler is really, really good. Spoiler alert here. Breaking news. Zach Wheeler is fantastic. This is not the time where you want this Braves offense to be facing Zach Wheeler. He might throw a complete game shutout with the way the Braves offense is going at this moment. And on the flip side, A.J. Smith-Shawver coming off his worst outing of the year, probably the worst outing of his career so far, giving up 7 runs to the Nationals. How does he respond to that? Can he bounce back and get on a roll once again? Like I said, there is a high chance that this game does not get played on Wednesday. And as much as I love to watch my Braves play each and every day, would not be the worst thing in the world for this game to get postponed and maybe either skip A.J. Smith-Shawver because you lost game 1, and A.J. Smith-Shawver versus Zach Wheeler feels like a bad matchup. Their best starter, one of the best starters in baseball, against your 5th starter, a young kid who's coming off his worst start. It's not a great matchup on paper. So would not be the worst thing in the world for this one to get postponed. But we'll see what happens. If I'm the Phillies right now, though, if it does get rained out on Wednesday, I'm playing a doubleheader on Thursday. I want to face this Braves team right now. You smell blood in the water. I'd certainly want to get both of these games in and see if you can just put the Braves down completely, like we just talked about, and kill any hope of them winning the division. But we'll see what happens on Wednesday if it does play. Like I said, going to be a tough matchup for the Braves with AJ Smith-Shawver versus Zach Wheeler. That will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Thanks so much for joining us here today. If you're new and watching this on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button. Leave me a comment down below. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.